Welcome to Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas podcast. Chancellor Kent gets us started every week with a saying of the day. What do you have for us this week?
Find the good. It's all around you. And find it and showcase it. You'll start believing in it. That's Jesse Owens saying. Jesse Owens was one of the great sprinters of all time and an Olympic track star, and he believed in the good. Tonight, we'll have the national championship game, the championship game of the Final Four. It'll be Houston and Florida. And I'm kind of pulling for Houston because they're in the Big 12 with the Red Raiders. They pulled it out against Duke last night. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't watching. I was just walking around some, and Duke was up by 9, and there was about 3 minutes left. And then I came back in the room, the TV is on, and there was 30-something seconds left, and Duke was up by 3. And then all of a sudden, Houston went up and stayed up, and they played well. Their defense played well throughout the game, and it finally paid dividends late in the game. And Duke had not played a defense like that all year. So I think Houston will beat Florida. All the Texas Tech Red Raider fans feel like they should have been there instead of Florida, and those things happen. I know how they look back on the 2019 championship game with Virginia, overtime, that they lost. And that still sticks in a lot of people's craw. But this will start on Tuesday, what I call is the dull time of the year. There's no college basketball or football. Now, college baseball can help along the way, and track and field a little. But as far as the major excitement, without college football and college basketball, it's about 5 months that it's not exciting. You have to wait till Dave Campbell's football magazine comes out, and then you kind of get a guesstimate on what everybody's going to do and how well they're going to play.
Now, the golf fans might have something to say about that, Chancellor, because the Masters.
They would. I'm such a bad golfer. I'll watch it a little, but I told somebody I'd shot a 64, and they were really impressed. And then we talked a little longer, and they figured out that was on the front 9. And so they then, wanted to bet me. They wanted to get me in a game where they'd bet me. I don't bet on something I can't have any control over. And I play golf about twice a year, and I'm a hacker. I try to hit the ball straight, but it doesn't always go that way. But the Masters coming up, and so that there'll be some excitement in that. A study came out that said that distracted drivers kill 3,000 people a year in the United States. But also a survey was done, and 74% of the people in the United States say they don't touch their phones when they get in the car. Now, I don't believe that. I think somebody's lying on that. Now, they might be saying they don't touch them because they put it where they've got a holder, and then they, on the steering wheel, they can call so-and-so, call Sandy, and they can do that. But I find it hard to believe that 74% don't touch the phone at all when they're driving. Shouldn't be touching it, shouldn't be. But if you've got it where you can give it commands with your voice, then that's a little different situation. Easter is coming up, and the New York Times had a story, consider the source, that instead of Easter eggs are so expensive this year, they're encouraging people to have Easter potatoes, and you paint the potatoes and hide them. And, Granddaddy, I found a potato. I don't think that's really going to catch on and replace eggs. You can buy some plastic eggs, but we always tried to use real eggs, and one year we used them, and and we had like 30 eggs, and we hit them real good, and we found 27. And we found the other 3 after they started smelling, And so Easter egg hunt, you got a lot of surprises that you're going to come along. Also, this week in Stupid Criminals, there was a guy goes to a lemonade stand that these little kids had in Florida and buys a glass of lemonade. And so he drinks it and he wants a refill. And they said, we don't give a refill. And, hard business people said, you got to buy another one. And he got in an argument with them, and one of the mothers came over there, and he grabbed her by the arm and shook her and said, y'all, teach these kids better than that. And they called the police, and they arrested him for battery. Don't get in a fight over a lemonade stand about whether you're going to get a refill or not. And there's some places it'll have a refill only with paying or something like that. But in most places in this day and time, if you buy a soft drink, that includes the refill. And that's kind of standard. But the lemonade stand, those kids were trying to make a little money, and they didn't want to, the guy sit there and guzzle all their lemonade. So they turned him down, and he got in a row with their mother and got charged with assault. I would hate for somebody else, you ever been arrested? Yeah, assault of a woman at a lemonade stand. It doesn't show a lot of courage, doesn't show any judgment whatsoever. So he was really in the Stupid Criminal. There was also a survey about unhealthy cheeseburgers. Now, 5 guys came in first, but I tell you, they came in first and tasting good too. And so that's the reason they were claiming they were unhealthy. And a smash burger, which I'd never heard of, came in second, and then Whataburger was third. But that's they're trying to make it healthy. People that are ordering a cheeseburger, they're not on the healthy food list. They're not trying to. I mean, it's not a salad. It's a big old cheeseburger. Last week, and I may have mentioned this in last week, when I was in San Francisco watching the Red Raiders, took a ride on it's called a Waymo. Google owns them, and it's a driverless car, and it's like Uber, and you get in and one of the good things, you don't have to tip, and the driver doesn't talk to you. It's not all bad. But when they drive down the street, those Waymos, if they're changing lanes, it's like they change lanes and the wheels turn 90 degrees. It's like a cartoon. You're going along in one lane and all of a sudden it just shifts over to the other lane. And they move pretty good, and it was safe, and I enjoyed it. But I had not been able to ride in a Waymo before, and we got the app, and away we went. They don't go to the airport, and they just drive around downtown San Francisco, and they've got them in Austin now, and L.A. and other cities throughout the country, and it's unusual. You're sitting there driving along, and there's no driver, but like I said, you don't have to talk to them, you don't have to tip, so it's not all bad. A lot of talk this week about tariffs, and that's something that's in for a long haul. And reciprocal tariffs seem like to me to be the best. That we take the average of what you charge us, we charge you the same. If you're at 8%, we're at 8%. If you go to 6, we go to 6. You go to 20, we go to 20. So we'll see what happens on that. I also read an article that Jimmy Buffett had a popular song called Margaritaville, and it's still his signature song, and they played it a couple of times at his funeral. But that was written for Elvis, and Elvis didn't think it was any good, and didn't record it. He left it up to Buffett. which he made it his signature song. New article about burnout, and it said that some people instead of having burnout, were having bore out. They just get bored at their job, and they may start that way. I don't know. We're coming up on the death of Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes was an unusual businessman, a very eccentric fellow, and that he was born in 1905 and passed away in 1976, April the 5th, 76. And he was a brilliant child, brilliant man, and that he built his own walkie-talkie radio system when he was 12 years old. And he was always involved in things. He went to Caltech and went to Rice. He married a lady that her uncle was the founder of Rice, William Marsh Rice, and that gave the money for it. You know, and Rice has a $7 billion endowment, which is for a school that small, that's excellent. But Howard Hughes, he inherited a lot of money. His dad had Hughes Tool Company, and Hughes Tool Company had the rotary drilling bit, and that was used in many of the energy drillers, oil and gas people. They could drill through almost anything with that Hughes tool bit. And he inherited that, Howard did, from his dad, and that he started adding to it. And he was fascinated by aircraft. And the reason for that is Wilbur and Orville Wright were his cousins. And I did not know that. I've known of Howard Hughes forever and known of the Wright brothers. But he was fascinated by airplanes, and he majored in aeronautical engineering at Caltech when he was out there. And so he started an aviation company and built planes and flew planes. And he crashed in a couple of them, and that's how he got hooked on painkillers. And that he dated actresses, and he started his own theater production company, RKO. And he ran that for a while, and it had some hits, but he had problems with the employees. He was not easy to get along with, and that he was lived in Vegas for a while. And when he left Houston, he moved to L.A. and lived at the Ambassador Hotel in L.A. And he liked to live in hotels, and that way somebody come get his cleaning, every day, or he could send it off, or they'd clean the room, they'd make up the bed. And he lived most of his life, he lived in hotels. And he lived in a hotel, had the Penthouse, one of the major hotels in Vegas, and lived there most of the rest of his life. He was sick, and he felt like there was a doctor in Houston could help him. And so he flew to Houston and died on the way. And they didn't know what state he was over when he died. But he died without a will. A guy that smart and had that much business and everything, dying without a will. And I guess he thought he'd live forever. And a will showed up. There was a church had a handwritten will, and it was later proven to be fraud. And he had about $2 billion, billion with a B. And so they did his will, a lot of lawyers involved, and they were the ones that made the money. But they fought over what state he died in, what state he was over when he died. And there was, fight over that, fight over the money. And there was one guy that had a service station that found him beside the road one time when he was younger. and picked him up and took him back to Vegas, and he got something like $100 million. And he didn't know, didn't remember who he was. And so his money was split out, and he had one deal, and the guy wouldn't have gotten anything, but there was one deal that said that he should get a certain amount, and that's how he got that certain amount. The rest of them had to go with what the law was, and his nieces and nephews and cousins, we start splitting $2 billion up. You split it up, and everyone's going to get a pretty good sum. I always think of people in the wills. There was a will that was read one time, and the guy that had died said, "My nephew Bob wants to be remembered in my will, and Bob, you're remembered, but you don't get anything." And a little harsh. I'm sure Bob was disappointed. Probably got up and left when they read that part of the will. He was also a germ freak, and he had, tissues all over his apartment or over his house where he lived, or his hotel room. And if he was going to pick something up, he'd get a tissue and pick it up with the tissue. But he was a real germ freak. And then he went for a period of time and did not clip his fingernails at all. And they grew 5 or 6 inches long, and was just a weird guy, but a very smart guy and a very unusual person. He took over TWA, Trans World Airlines, and ran that for a while, and made some money on it. And later it failed after he died. But he was brilliant, and he could study anything and get a feel of what needed to be done to solve an issue in that arena. So he was a genius in aviation, and he had a Sikorsky helicopter. He crashed in Lake Mead one time and was injured, severely injured. And that's how he really got hooked on pain medicine. We'll say good luck to the Houston Cougars. Go Cougars. And the saying of the day, find the good. It's all around you. Find it, showcase it, and you'll start believing in it. And that's from Jesse Owens, a great athlete and a great American.
Stop this.